And that is the fact that America, Texas, and Western civilization are under attack from within. The cheap labor lobby, left-wing NGOs, radical progressive Democrats, Marxists, globalist organizations, the United Nations. They've mobilized a coordinated effort to subvert our security, our immigration system, to harm the American people. Particularly concerning is the threat posed by Islamists who are spreading Sharia law into Texas, who are advancing throughout the country, and who have a stated goal of undermining American life, not assimilating into it. This is a political movement, well-funded, targeted at the American people, Western civilization, our rule of law, the Constitution. We should not be allowing more people into this country who are adherent to Sharia law. Period.
Representative Chip Roy just delivered a fiery speech on the House floor that's getting a lot of attention. He's taking aim at what he calls a red-green alliance, an alleged partnership between far-left Marxist activists and Sharia law-aligned Islamists, and arguing that this coalition is working to undermine Western institutions from within. Roy contrasts his stance with lawmakers like Ilhan Omar, whom he criticizes for what he sees as sympathetic rhetoric toward ideologies he believes conflict with the U.S. Constitution. He frames his message not just around border security, but around what he describes as a broader cultural and political shift happening in the country. In the speech, Roy also references the tragic killing of a 20-year-old National Guard member, using the case to underscore his concerns about immigration and national security policies. For him, this isn't abstract politics. He presents it as a matter of public safety and the future direction of the country.
The Quran is our law, jihad is our way, dying in the way of Allah is our highest hope. Meanwhile, Europe has fallen. London, Paris, mere shells of their former strong self. You watch veterans who fought to defend the United Kingdom in World War II, those still alive tear up and cry, wondering what it was they fought for. When they watch the radical extension of Islam into the streets of London and throughout the United Kingdom. In France, a majority of young French Muslims put Sharia above their own national laws, and more than a third have sympathy for Islamification. French officials have warned President Macron that Islamists are infiltrating France's Republican institutions and are a threat to national cohesion. The authors of the report to Macron identified the Federation of Muslims of France, FMF, as the main French emanation of the historic Muslim Brotherhood, which was founded 100 years ago to promote a return to core Islamic values. They said the FMF controlled 139 places of worship in France and a further 68 affiliated, and all around 7% of the total. The organization ran some 280 associations. 7 out of 10 French voters would back a ban on the Islamic veil in public because of what's happening in France. In the United Kingdom, Muslims are increasingly turning to Britain's Sharia courts, which are not part of UK law and operate as informal bodies. The number of Sharia courts in Britain has grown to 85 since the first began operating in the country in 1982. Polls have found that 41% of the British public believe that Muslim immigrants have had a negative impact on the United Kingdom. Nearly half think that Muslim women are pressured into wearing the hijab, and almost a third think that Islam promotes violence. Parallel legal systems are not keys to a thriving society. There must be one rule of law for all of the people. All the way back in 1991, a lot of people won't know this, the Muslim Brotherhood issued a memorandum about North America, detailing a plan for, quote, the enablement of Islam in North America, establishing an effective and stable Islamic movement led by the Muslim Brotherhood, which adopts Muslims' causes domestically and globally and works to expand the observant Muslim base. It was a coordinated and specific effort to advance Islam into the United States. Our founders did not envision a nation that remotely resembled today's Muslim world and the radical elements of Sharia. America was founded as a nation grounded in a distinctly Judeo-Christian history and understanding of human nature. It was the United States, it was Great Britain, that led the ending of slavery. John Adams said, one great advantage of the Christian religion is that it brings the great principle of the law of nature and nations to the knowledge, belief, and veneration of the whole people. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams hinted at the incompatibility of America's Republican virtues with the values of Muslim nations after meeting with the Islamic ambassador about the Barbary state's inclination to make war upon nations that did them no wrong, after they were informed it was a requirement of the Quran. Jefferson's papers. In 1786, he wrote, quote, we took the liberty to make some inquiries concerning the grounds of their pretensions to make war upon nations who had done them no injury, and observed that we considered all mankind as our friends who had done us no wrong, nor had given us any provocation. The ambassador answered us that it was founded on the laws of their prophet, that it was written in their Quran, that all nations who should not have acknowledged their authority were sinners, that it was their right and duty to make war upon them whenever they could be found, and to make slaves of all they could take as prisoners, and that every Muslim who should be slain in battle was sure to go to paradise. That's Jefferson in 1786. Our founders knew that Sharia law was not consistent with Western civilization and our values. Sharia law is a problem that is growing throughout the United States and certainly growing in Texas. My home state bore the brunt of a 4-year mass migration invasion under the previous administration. But there's been a quieter one of Islamists leveraging our immigration system and corporate interest to extend and use diversity visas, chain migration, H-1B visas, to flood our country with people who don't believe in it and have no intention of assimilating into it. And it is undeniably true. After the election of the mayor in New York, Mamdani, with what's going on in Dearborn, with what's going on in Minneapolis, with what we're seeing happen in Texas, in Dallas, in Houston, what we saw unfold in London, in Paris, that there is an attack on the Western way of life, and we must stand up and defend it if we're going to be able to.
Part 2. Main reaction camera cuts back to host, visibly energized. Unbelievable. Did you hear that? Under attack from within. No hesitation. No walking it back. Chip Roy is going straight at what he sees as the drivers behind current immigration policy: the cheap labor lobby, international institutions like the UN, and political leaders he believes are ignoring the long-term consequences. But the part that stands out most, and the part that will spark the fiercest debate, is his warning about the influence of Sharia-based legal concepts in Western societies. Roy argues that the United States cannot accommodate any legal framework that conflicts with the U.S. Constitution. In his view, constitutional law must remain the sole governing authority. He references developments in European cities like London and Paris, claiming they demonstrate the risks of parallel legal or cultural systems. Supporters of lawmakers such as Ilhan Omar strongly dispute that characterization, but Roy frames it as a cautionary tale the U.S. should not ignore. He also points to specific developments in Texas, including the East Plano Islamic Center, often referred to locally as EPIC, and large-scale community projects in Houston, arguing they represent more than just religious or cultural centers. Critics say those claims exaggerate what are legally operating religious communities. Supporters say the scale raises legitimate policy questions. Roy ties all of this to broader immigration reform, including proposals to restrict asylum policies, reconsider birthright citizenship, and reduce visa programs. He invokes the tragic killing of a young National Guard member reportedly by an Afghan national who entered under a parole program to argue that current screening systems are failing. That case remains under legal review, but it has intensified debate around parole authority and refugee vetting. He also references George Soros, a frequent target in conservative political rhetoric, alleging funding networks that advance progressive causes. Supporters of Soros reject those claims and note his philanthropic work spans a wide range of initiatives. Finally, Roy calls for revisiting Plyler v. Doe, the Supreme Court decision that guarantees access to public education regardless of immigration status, a long-standing and highly contentious constitutional issue. Supporters frame Roy's speech as a defense of constitutional sovereignty and national security. Critics argue it risks conflating extremist ideologies with mainstream religious communities and could inflame division. This debate isn't going away anytime soon. The questions being raised about immigration levels, constitutional limits, national identity, and religious freedom are some of the most contentious in American politics today.